Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Pitch Side Perspective podcast. This week, we're going back in time and we're looking at some iconic Premier League eras. From the noughties, the 90s, and the 2010s, we're going to be discussing who we think is the ultimate Premier League Barclaysman. From people like Morten Gamst Pedersen to Yakubu, Matty Taylor, and more, we're going to be talking about their goals, their celebrations, and those iconic moments that made us fall in love with the Premier League. So sit back and enjoy this episode.
1, 2, 3, 4.
So, Jack, this week it's all about Premier League and the definition of a Barclaysman. So, I'm going to kick things off straight away with a question to you. To you, what era of the Premier League is the best era?
Oh, I think 2000s. I'm sure everyone has a period in their kind of history of watching football that they think they enjoyed the most. I would say if I had to break it down even to a smaller time period, probably early 2000 to 2005, that kind of era. I think it probably depends on how old you are. We were watching a lot of the game then. And then I think it comes down to, like we're going to talk about today, iconic players that excited you, that you like to watch, whether they played for your team or not.
Yeah, so we're talking obviously about the Barclaysman, and there's a certain criteria to be a Barclaysman. It's not about being the best player, right? It's about having a bit of an aura about you and a bit of a name about yourself for a certain reason, right?
I think it's you got to be iconic. You've got to be individual, known for something specific, something that makes you a little bit different to to other players around you. Whether that means you're one of the best players in the league or not, I don't think it does. It might just be something very specific that you do that makes you stand out.
And I think this is actually quite a tough bracket to squeeze 5 players in. If we're going to find the top 5 Barclaysmen, there's going to be some disappointed people out there. Not that they listen to this podcast, these players, but they're going to be. It's not as easy as you think because there is quite a lot of iconic players, and as we said, it's not like I don't think like a Cantona or people like that. Yes, they had an aura about them, and they were a fantastic player, but they don't quite fit that mold. And I think the way I kind of sum it up is if you had a 12, 13-year-old come up to you now and say, like, what was the Premier League like in the noughties or the 2010s or even late 90s, you would give like a certain player to say like that is the Premier League, right?
Yeah, and I think almost like you mentioned Cantona there, having too much success or too much limelight, I think actually takes you away from being a Barclaysman. You know, someone like a Peter Crouch could be in there because of the great goals he scored, unique player in lots of different ways. But now he's talked about so much with his kind of podcast and his stories and everything. Like he's almost now too much on our TV screens and on our podcasts that we listen to kind of be recognised as a Barclaysman anymore. So it's interesting how I think it does change over time as players maybe are forgotten by the modern game and therefore they're pushed up that list, or they're in front of our faces a lot and maybe moved off that list.
Is there any Huddersfield players creeping into this criteria?
I think if you're talking about Premier League, it's tough, right? We've only a couple of seasons in there. If anyone, I would maybe throw in Aaron Moy.
That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah, I just think when I think of Huddersfield in the Premier League, just his bald head running around. That's who I remember.
Yeah, and actually he was probably our best player in the Premier League too. But you know, which kind of goes against what we're saying a little bit. But I would probably put him as the top of the Huddersfield list.
Well, before we break down what we both have as our top 5 for Barclaysman, a Premier League player, it's time for the Guess Who challenge. So obviously, last week you tried being a little bit nice at the first clue, and it was one of those you're either getting it or you're not getting it. So I've gone a little bit similar this week, and if you know this piece of trivia, you're going to get it straight away.
Okay.
So clue 1. At 13 years old, he featured in a famous McDonald's commercial during the 1994 World Cup, and 3 years later made his professional debut.
Wow. Okay. So I don't know this. So I'm going to try and break it down. So he made his debut at what 16, 17, and He would have been born around about 1980, 81.
Good math skills.
So, I mean, I'll put Michael Owen out there just because I know he obviously made his debut very young, and maybe he was brought in to do that because he was a good young player and being recognised already. So I'll throw Michael Owen in there.
Okay, well, let's see if you stick or twist with clue 2. Clue 2. This player was the first player to earn England caps at 4 different clubs.
So maybe someone around that similar age as him. And then someone who's moved around a little bit. So someone I'm thinking someone like a Scott Parker, but I don't know if he got that many England caps. Owen would have got him at Liverpool and Madrid.
You got to think about maybe Michael Owen and the clubs he's played at in the Premier League.
But they played Man United, Liverpool.
Maybe a couple others.
I'll stick with Michael Owen then because you've talked me into it.
Okay, all right. So we'll stick with Michael Owen. We'll come back at the end and see if you're going to change your mind. So when it came up with the top 5, I think we've been probably working on our top 5 for at least 12 months because I feel like every week we're sending each other an Instagram reel or something of like an iconic moment from the Premier League. Before we get into the top 5, is there one iconic moment that really sums up the Premier League for you?
You put me on the spot a little bit there. I think there's lots in there, and they're usually goals more than anything. When you think about like, was it Cisse scored the goal against Chelsea, like outside of the foot, Bennett?
Pape Cisse.
Cisse, that one for Newcastle. Go on, I'll let you tell me one whilst I have a second to think.
It pains me to say it, but it's got to be the moment the commentator Aguero.
Yeah, that's a big one. Another one that I actually saw the other day, and it definitely an iconic moment, is Arsene Wenger getting sent to the stands. I think the league actually
when he's standing on the box.
Yeah, I think that the league actually sent him an apology afterwards. Where was it at Old Trafford as well?
Yeah.
So it was like the iconic Man United Arsenal rivalry, and he got sent to the stands and literally had to go stand, just I don't know, on a flat bit of the stadium with just a ton of Man United fans surrounding him, screaming at him. Seemed a bit unfair, but that I guess is an iconic moment that image kind of describes a lot of what was going on at that point in the league.
Brilliant. No, it's there's again many iconic moments we can pick from, but let's get into our top 5. Was there a criteria that you really tried sticking with when you came up with your top 5?
People, honestly, I didn't want to get into like stats or anything. I'm just thinking about, people that are stuck in my head that are not necessarily always talked about. You don't really see or hear too much about. There's probably one or two actually on my list that maybe people might argue a little bit about that. But yeah, certainly I was trying to stay away from people that are always discussed and talked about and guests on the football shows and on kind of any analysis shows.
Hey, this is hard. As you're talking there, I've been looking down my notepad and I've just changed my order completely again. I could change this order forever, but I think we go like this. We both give our top 5, and then we can kind of argue against each other and see what we're coming up with. So I'll go first. In 5th place, I've snuck a goalkeeper in there. This goalkeeper, iconic, Jussi Jääskeläinen. I think when you think about goalkeepers of that Premier League era, he like the long shaggy blonde hair, baggy clothes, like that Bolton kit, and he was actually a good goalkeeper as well. And I know we said that isn't a massive criteria, but I think when I think about prime goalkeepers from that era, I'm thinking Jussi Jääskeläinen.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to make for much of a podcast, but I've actually put in 5th place Jääskeläinen as well. Something I think probably helps him is he played for a lot of seasons at Bolton too, and that Bolton team might actually be the most iconic team of Premier League history, I think. when you think about the players and the stadium and the kit and manager and just kind of it was always seemed to be raining and under floodlights anytime Bolton played at home, and everyone's shirt seemed to be 2 sizes too big, including Jääskeläinen's. And he had the sleeves slightly rolled up his forearms, and now and then might make a bit of an error, but would also pull off some unbelievable saves. I think he always used to play in like World Cups and just like loved pinging a diagonal out. And obviously with Kevin Davies up front, there was no chance of them ever playing out from the back. He was just pinging it up there for him to go win the headers.
But
Yeah,
you mentioned Bolton there. Bolton, you could probably pick 5 or 6 Barclaysmen just from their team. I mean, you've got the likes of JJ Okopji, you just mentioned Kevin Davis there, Tel Benheim, the Israeli centre back. You've got
the
Ivan
Greek,
Campo, big bushy afro. Like, there's so
who was
many players.
the Greek like winger?
Stilios.
Yeah, but his actual name was so hard to pronounce.
Yeah, no one's pronouncing that.
Yeah.
You think I've got a chance of pronouncing that? I can't even say English names.
Yeah. No, Bolton. Yeah, Bolton.
But also, like you said, Sam Allardyce. Like,
Yeah.
just him on the sideline with his big trench coat on, chewing his gum, just shouting. And the one moment for me, I can't remember who the player is. It might even be someone like Robbie Savage, but somebody takes a dive and the camera pans to Sam Allardyce. He's just pointing at him, laughing at him on the floor. And that was like prime Premier League era for me.
Yeah, and you could go for that whole team. Probably the most Barclaysman team in Premier League history, Bolton and Jääskeläinen. I didn't purposely put a goalkeeper in there, but whenever I think about Premier League, he is the guy that pops into my head for sure.
Yeah. So that's both of our number 5s. I'll let you go next. Then who's your number 4?
So number 4, maybe is slightly against the grain in terms of I've talked a lot about people, trying to pick players that aren't talked about a lot and discussed a lot. But this guy was just so unique, and I think his style when he played was just completely different to anyone else. And everyone else was running, sprinting, rushing around, and this guy just seemed so laid back. And that's Berbatov.
Yeah, obviously he won a lot of stuff at United, but I think even in his Tottenham days, like he just came in and he just had that swagger about him, a little bit Cantona-esque in terms of like he thought he was a good player and he acted like he was a good player, which he was, but he just had that swagger as he glides across. And the big moment for me that I remember is at United, he's out on the goal line and the ball's come in and he's got back to goal and he's like turned the defender on the goal line, hasn't he? And then like got his shot off and
well, I think and then he squares it across Ronaldo to tap in, doesn't he? He like scoops over the defender. And just like bringing the ball out of the air, just bang straight at his feet. Just kind of long strides, just like kind of lounging around the field. Probably more iconic for his time at Tottenham. I think when I think of him, I think of him as a Tottenham player more than a Man United player. Might be different for you as a United fan, but
yeah, I mean, he came into that United team, didn't he? And he had some competition for him in that. I mean, you had Wayne Rooney and people like that fighting for that number 9 position. I thought about putting Berbatov in there just because of like we said, his swagger, but has he won maybe too much to maybe fit into it? Like we talked there about Jussi Jääskeläinen and didn't really win anything. Berbatov has won Premier League and whatnot. Does that maybe disqualify him and push him out? I'm not sure.
No, I definitely take that point, but I thought about that myself. But the reason I did decide to put him in is just because I think he's so unique. I think he's one of them people. If you just saw silhouettes of players running around the field, you'd be able to point to his and go like, yeah, that's Berbatov. Just with the way he's running, moving, controlling the ball.
The thin black headband and his hair slicked back.
Yeah.
You ever try that back in your day, slicking your hair back?
Yeah, no, a little bit. Long sleeves over the hand as well. Just
Iconic player. I'll definitely give you that. Well, in number 4, I've gone for an Evertonian, an Australian Evertonian, Tim Cahill.
Right.
I think, again, not the world's greatest player. And I think the most iconic moments for him and what kind of puts him into this category, that celebration, running over to the corner flag and boxing the corner flag.
Yeah.
But also, I thought there was points in his career that he probably could have made a move to a bigger Premier League team. That's no disrespect to Everton, but in those days, you're talking. I think he was getting linked with the likes of like United and Arsenal's and Chelsea, and he almost became that like number 10 when there wasn't really a number 10. He was always that like shadow striker, so to speak. Like, he was getting goals. You could rely on him for keeping Everton up many seasons because of the goals he scored.
Yeah, I think he was actually in the perfect place for him at Everton. So I think if he went anywhere else, if he went to Chelsea, well, you got Lampard in there with Essien. First of all, you're going to get on the field and mind be the attacking player running into the box. That's Lampard's job. Same at United. So I think at Everton, he got to be the guy doing the things that he was very good at. Scored, he always seemed to be an aerial threat, scoring headers, even though he's, not particularly a tall person, but he had that time in a run and that leap and just that willingness to attack any ball in the box. A bit of a leader in there as well.
And I think when you think about Australian players in the Premier League, because another one that I thought about was Lucas Neal, who was at Blackburn and the right back. But I think if you're talking the best Australian player to have played in the Premier League,
Yeah.
for me, Tim Cahill, like we said, Lucas Neal, Mark Bosnich could be in for a shout of. He was a good goalkeeper on his day, but yeah, Stephen Pienaar's South African, but that
Aaron Moy.
that team of Everton when it was David Moyes, I thought was rigid, solid, but they played some good stuff and they were entertaining to watch. And I think that was partly down to Tim Cahill and it was just getting him the ball. And one of his teammates has actually came into my list as well, and I'll mention that in a little bit. But yeah, for me, I've got Tim Cahill in it. It was a toss-up between him and Peter Crouch, but as what you mentioned earlier, Peter Crouch is one of the most iconic Premier League players. But I think now he's gone on to that next level of like fame and
Yeah.
celebrity status that kind of rules him out of this, right?
Yeah, I agree with your comment on Peter Crouch. Tim Cahill wouldn't be in my five. Not I don't know what it was. I don't know why. Obviously, very good player and did great things for Everton, but not someone who pops straight into my mind. But not a bad shout.
So moving then on to number 3 is another central midfield player, um, Turkish player, two guy who was at Blackburn. Didn't have the longest career in the Premier League,
Yeah,
but that guy could strike a ball. I can't remember who it was against, but there's that one goal where he absolutely levers it edge of the box. And I feel like if we were to do an underrated 11, I think he could creep in there as well. I thought his technique was outstanding. And I remember I've spoken to obviously a friend of ours, Jack Briley, when he was at Blackburn as a youth player, and he would see him in the first team. And a little bit to Berbatov, he had that bit of swagger about him, but the stories you hear on him, after games, you'll be smoking a pack of cigarettes and having bottles of wine and beer. But then as soon as he got onto that pitch, he was just strutting himself about, pinging balls left, right, and centre. And again, I don't know if it's something to do with that long hair because you've got Berbatov with long hair. He's got that long hair. But yeah, wow, what a player.
yeah, he was classy player. Sometimes just took over games and he controlled them when he wanted to. Maybe talk about Berbatov being laid back. I think two guy maybe in a different way so laid back that maybe he was never quite as good as he could have been. One with like the training, diet, all that kind of stuff that you mentioned before.
But you say that he played until he was 38 in the Premier League. You've got to be in good shape to be able to do that.
Yeah, although I think his role wasn't exactly bombing around the field, pressing the ball, was it? I think he
True.
was stuck in the centre circle and dictate everything.
But he was the heartbeat of Blackburn's team then. And again, another Sam Allardyce team. Maybe the criteria to be a Barclaysman is you've got to be coached by Sam Allardyce.
Yeah, well, we know who's coaching the Barclaysman 11 for sure.
Exactly. But I would say, I mean, we haven't gone through a couple more on here, but he could be potentially the most underrated Barclaysman in there in terms of ability.
In terms of ability, maybe, yeah.
So number 3, who you've gone for?
I've gone for a guy, talking about underrated. I think everyone thinks this guy's a good player. But if you're talking about the best strikers seen in the Premier League, you never talk about this guy. And I think he was probably not now, he might have moved out of it. I think he was probably in the top 10 Premier League goal scorers when he retired, but that's Jermaine Defoe. Obviously a partner with Crouch for some of his career too. Been around at lots of different clubs. Another iconic team, that Portsmouth team. Again, Harry Redknapp actually might have a shout against Allardyce. But yeah, iconic player, scored tons of goals, lots of different types of goals, moved around and played in different teams. So I'm putting Defoe in there. Slightly for that, and because I think just the amount of goals he scored and what and games he played, but he's not really talked about when people think about best Premier League strikers who scored the most goals in the Premier League. He's got to be in the top 15 Premier League goal scorers of all time, I would guess.
Here's a question for you then. If Jermaine Defoe was playing currently now, let's say he's late 20s, early 30s, would he be making the England squad?
Well, right now, probably, yeah, because I think
So I
that's
feel like you're missing out on that like poacher. You got Harry Kane, but there's not really like, he was a pure poacher. I
well,
mean,
I think yeah, because England are short of strikers that are in form right now, aren't they? I think you obviously got Kane, you got Welbeck, and then you're probably looking at what?
162 Premier League goals. He's in the top
Wow.
10 for all-time goals. Like that,
He's in the
that
top 10.
takes, yeah, he's in top 10. I mean, as well, like you think about his career, West Ham, Portsmouth, Tottenham, Sunderland, the charity work he done at Sunderland for that young lad that unfortunately passed away. Um, but yeah, that partnership, him and Peter Crouch, I think again, if we were to do another episode on strike partnerships, them two would be in for a shout, don't you think?
Yeah, and I guess they partnered up at more than one club, right? Or we played
They would
together
have
at Tottenham.
they would have partnered at Tottenham and Portsmouth, and it would have been on Harry Redknapp is in for a shout of rivaling Sam
Yeah,
Allardyce here as the Barclaysman manager.
yeah, and it's always something when as a manager moves clubs, they bring a player along who they've coached in a previous club as well. So I think Defoe's a bit of a fan favourite that maybe goes under the radar in terms of not being spoken about too much. So I've got him at 3.
You got 5 minutes left of a game. You're losing 1-0. You need to draw the game. You got Peter Crouch. You got Jermaine Defoe on the bench. What are you going for?
One of them comes off the bench.
Yeah.
I'd go Defoe, I think, because of his goal scoring record. Although I guess the alternate would be, maybe put if you 1-0 down, 5 minutes left, can you put balls in the box and get the ball forward up to Crouch? Put them
The
both
only
on. Put them both on.
Put them both on, little and large, the traditional combo. The only question mark I would have for Defoe, and this is a question to maybe to argue, is he known for his numbers and his stats of the goals, or is he remembered for iconic moments? Because when we talked about being a Barclaysman, it was about like iconic moments and what you're about. What would you say to that?
No, I think that's fair. I think even if you went to me like, tell me about one of his goals, I don't think there's any like specific goal that comes to mind, is there? With Defoe, I just think you think about him in that period of time at Tottenham and the Redknapp was again like an exciting team to watch. I think that Portsmouth team were always a good watch because it could go either way with them. Sometimes it felt like. So I think it's more about the goals he scored and those particular, talk about. I think he probably played with Berbatov at Tottenham too, didn't he? So I think for me, it's almost turning. As I'm looking at this, it's kind of showing me that I'm also just thinking about specific teams that really caught the eye, not always in a good way, that make you think of specific players.
He's one of the. I was just looking up here about Jermaine Defoe, one of only 3 players to score 5 goals in a Premier League game.
Mm.
Can you name the other 2?
Did Andre Arshavin score 5 for
The
Arsenal?
Liverpool game?
No.
He is not. I'm just looking it up now.
Haaland?
Not Haaland.
Oh,
I'll give you him. Alan
Cole?
Shearer,
Okay.
Andy Cole. Alan
Yeah.
Shearer against Sheffield Wednesday, 99. Andy Cole against Ipswich, 95. A little bit of added trivia this week.
Good job that wasn't the question of the week.
I was going to say, yeah. So moving on to number 2. This is a big one. I'm going to have you give me number 1 and number 2 because
Okay.
I'm curious about what your order might be here and your reasonings behind it.
These two of the best ball strikers ever, and they also played in that period of time where the Premier League used the Nike ball. I can't remember what they call the ball, but like the rings around it that everyone just seemed to be able to peg. Like Paul Scholes would just smash 30-yard goals in all the time with this ball. And I'm sure it was nothing to do with the ball, but it just was too much coincidence. So second, this guy wandered the left foot. You talked a little bit about Blackburn earlier. Morten Gamst Pedersen.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was a player that just stood out. That bright blonde hair and that iconic white and blue Blackburn kit. It was a game. He scored a hat trick against United when they absolutely mullered us. And yeah, I mean, when you talk about Morten Gamst Pedersen, is he maybe part of outside of Haaland, the best Scandinavian player to play in the Premier League.
Well, you go Solskjaer as well, wouldn't you? Ronnie Johnson, maybe. Peter Schmeichel. But he's just he was just fun to watch, wasn't he? Again, I don't know how much defending he ever did, but on the ball, he could just land it wherever he wanted to land it. He scored some great goals, set pieces. Yeah, he was a good player to watch. I think he was a good player that everyone enjoyed watching him when he had the ball.
And he was linked with so many clubs, but he just never left. I wonder why he decided to stay at Blackburn. And again, no disrespect to Blackburn, but they weren't famous for winning trophies. They weren't really in line to win trophies. He could have gone probably to, I think to when Chelsea, when Abramovich took over and they got Damien Duff. I think he was on that kind of level of Damien Duff. Him could have rivaled in that left wing. United, could he have been the replacement for Giggs?
Yeah, but I also think that's why these players have become Barclaysmen, right? Because they've sometimes a good transfer move is actually knowing when not to move. So again, I think Pedersen staying at Blackburn, I'm sure he could have made more money if he had gone to a bigger club. But I don't think he would have. Again, if you look at Damien Duff at Chelsea, how many really successful seasons did he have there? Same we talk about Jääskeläinen, would he have always been number one if he'd have moved elsewhere? Because at Bolton, he could make one or two mistakes every now and then, and he knew he was always going to be in the goal the week after. So I think, again, we talked a bit about Cahill, I think Pedersen was in the right place at Blackburn. Yeah,
Definitely one of the most loyal Barclaysmen as well, spending a long time at Blackburn. And in terms of when we spoke about at the start criteria, longevity, I think he only retired about a year or two ago. He was 42 years old playing in Norway. He was if you were to give him one of his main attributes, it was his fitness. He was up and down that left wing.
Do you think so? I just never saw him as that type of player. I always thought he was just. I think he put a shift in, yeah, but I don't think
But he
was.
never stopped. He would every time I would watch United against Blackburn, he was always on the ball, going. And I think he's a fullback's nightmare because he would just want to beat the player and then get the cross in straight away.
Well, and again, a bit like with Cahill, right? I think Blackburn saw him as the guy that's going to build. If we're going to get anything out of this game, this is the guy that's going to get it out for us. So get the ball to him as early as possible, as quick as possible, and he's either going to score or create something for us to score.
Do you think the Premier League these days and Premier League teams miss that type of player to have your stronger foot on the same side you're playing at and just getting balls in the box? Because I watch United at the moment. We've got a 6'3" striker in the middle that you don't want to put balls into, and I feel even with Haaland is phenomenal in the air. People don't put enough balls in the box, and gone are the days of traditional wingers who right foot on the right side, left foot on the left side, and getting balls in the box. It's all cut inside and play. Do you think we're missing that?
Yeah, I mean, is it because there's probably, I mean, obviously mentioned Tesco and Haaland are probably a bit of an outlier in terms of traditional looking number nines who can attack crosses. I don't know if is which is the cause and effect. Is it because there's less forwards that score goals from attacking crosses in the air? Maybe that then has the effect of, okay, we're going to find different ways of scoring. We're not going to whip balls in the box, and also look at the centre backs we are excellent at defending those crosses too.
So go on and give me your number one then.
So my number one is Matty Taylor.
Interesting.
So again, no one talks about him, and I mean, without sounding mean, probably there's not a ton of reasons to talk about him, except from obviously that unbelievable goal he scored for Portsmouth, wasn't it? But similar to Pedersen in terms of ball striking, technique, just nothing better than just watching someone just ping diagonals out to wide players. He was great at that. Again, played in an iconic team or two. So yeah, I'm putting him as my number one.
Yeah, that volley against Everton. I remember when that went in. I think it was 2003, 2004, that time. And I remember seeing that. And I think the next time, me and my mates would meet at the park, we all tried replicating that. And you could give probably the average Joe 100 balls. They're missing at 100. Matty Taylor, I felt like he just had that in his locker. And if I was a Portsmouth fan or Bolton, West Ham, wherever he was, if he ever get the ball, I'll just be screaming out for him to shoot because the technique he had on him. I think when you look at Taylor, the one player that could maybe rival him for this position is John Arne Riise. Like that left, who do you think has a better left foot, Riise or Matty Taylor?
I think Riise could just hit the ball really, really hard.
Well, ask Alan Smith that he broke his leg because of it.
Yeah. And also, the Villa played Hitzelberger. He was probably put Riise up against Hitzelberger in terms of just hitting rockets. Matty Taylor was a bit more, he could whip it, he could curl it, strike it, could whatever he wanted, just technique wise. And actually, the other thing I would say is the other 4 players on my top 5, and probably all the players that you've talked about, if I supported their team and you buy a jersey, you probably get one of their names on the back of that jersey. Whereas I don't think that many people have Matty Taylor's name on the back of the Portsmouth jersey, right? They probably had a Defoe if it was at the same time, or Canu or someone like that.
Yeah, no, I agree on that. And I guess the argument goes a little bit is like, would you rather be known for scoring that one goal a season, but it's a pure banger, or scoring 10, 15 goals? Like, for me, it's like Jermaine Defoe, Matty Taylor, like way up. It's like,
I
do you
mean,
want to be known for scoring those goals or that one banger? Because you're not talking like we struggle to think of a Jermaine Defoe goal. Matty Taylor, straight away, you think about that, right?
yeah. I mean, I'd rather score 15 goals a season. But it's not just that one goal, is it? I think he probably scored some other good ones too, just because his ball striking's so good, you can't not really.
Well, one of the players you've picked is in my top 2, but
Okay.
he's in at number 1,
Oh, so
and it is
Pedersen's the
not
one.
Matty Taylor.
Yeah.
I put Morten Gamst Pedersen as the number 1 Barclaysman of the Premier League era, and we don't need to reiterate what we've already spoken about him. But all I will say is I think when you think about that era of the noughties, he was like just a standout player from the look, the ability, how he carried himself about, the iconicness of him. So for me, that's why I put him in at number 1. But my number 2 is a teammate of the one that you put in of Matty Taylor, big Yakubu up top.
Yeah.
When I think about Yakubu, I think he might not be the world's greatest striker, but I think he was quite effective, and he didn't look like he didn't look like a football player. He was big, he was large, he probably carried a little bit of extra weight, but he bullied defenders every single week. I can't imagine playing against him.
Yeah, that would be tough up against Yakubu. I think it'd be a bit of a nightmare. He seemed to have like a really hot spell, and like his best years were very condensed. It seems like anyway.
He would miss an open goal in the middle of the box, but yeah, he would go and score a screamer or a header. And I think like he had a great partnership. I think it might have been with Jermaine Defoe as well at Portsmouth. And it goes back to that little and large argument. I mean,
Another Harry Redknapp signing.
I think so as well. And I think Yakubu went to a few Premier League teams and had a successful Premier League season. I know he got 95 goals, so he was 5 away from joining the 100 club, but
Yeah.
not many players make that 100 club. So for him to get 95 goals and not be seen as a great striker, he's doing well for himself.
Yeah, that's surprising. I would never have guessed he scored that many goals.
Um, but yeah, I think when we look at these top 5, there could have been multitude of players that you could have fitted in there. Is there anyone that you would maybe want to give a shout out to that could have crept in there?
Honourable mention.
Yeah,
Who are you thinking for your honourable mention?
for me, it's kind of like you think about iconic moments and how you've maybe changed the game. Rory Delap and his throw-ins. Like you think about the seasons with Stoke, rainy night on a Tuesday night, Rory Delap just zipping balls in long, and
Yeah.
it's kind of come back into the game now. And how it has come back in now, people are talking about Rory Delap, which shows he was an iconic player.
Yeah, I'll put 2 in there. One would be Kevin Phillips.
Yep.
Obviously, when Sunderland came up and had a great first season in Premier League, and he might have even won the Golden Boot that year. I can't remember. He was just scoring goals for fun. Obviously, big partnership with Niall Quinn, little lads like you mentioned a few times. And then the other one, just because we haven't really spoken about centre backs, I'm going to put in there Titus Bramble,
Oh,
big time iconic centre back.
Titus Bramble versus Richard Dunn. I don't know who scored more own goals. Probably Richard Dunn, but it's I don't know if you've ever said it, but I've commonly said it to players where they look like Lionel Messi and then the next minute they look like Titus Bramble, and it's like you don't want to be labelled Titus Bramble. No offense.
Yeah, but he was the kind of guy, you give him a task and he just carries out that task to 100% of his capabilities. And played in the Premier League for many seasons.
So then we spoke about two managers, Harry Redknapp, Sam Allardyce. You still sticking with Sam Allardyce as the Barclaysman manager?
No, you know what? I think I'm switching to Harry Redknapp, and I think because he had a couple of iconic interview moments and stuff and one-liners, so I'm going to go Harry Redknapp.
I think
I
that
mean,
one of the best
Warnock, you could throw Warnock's name in there just because of the amount of games he's done, but I'm going to go.
one of the best moments, though, I think, is David Bentley when he's pinged that ball and he's hit him when they're live on Sky at the training ground. David Bentley, another one that could maybe have crept in there. But again, you said there about Neil Warnock. What a character. And I think when you think about characters of Premier League, he was a character of it.
Yeah. Harry Redknapp's my pick for the manager of the Barclaysman team. What are you having?
I would say Harry
You know,
Redknapp.
the thing is, though, like with Sam Allardyce, it's like he has Sammy Lee next to him. And that is just Sammy Lee is almost as iconic as Sam Allardyce, whereas Harry Redknapp,
Because of that duo.
yeah. Whereas I couldn't tell you who Harry Redknapp's assistant partner in crime was.
And I think what makes Harry Redknapp a bit iconic though is like his accent. He's a Londoner, isn't he? He's like got a bit of the Jack the Lad about him. But yeah, some of the things he would come up with, like it was brilliant. But yeah, Sam Allardyce, I think Sam Allardyce sums up that era of the Premier League. Harry Redknapp sums up the Barclaysman criteria.
Right. Yeah.
But before we finish, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. So just thinking about your list, my list, I've put a few names together and I've made a bracket of 8. So 2 players are going to face off each other and we're going to see who you think out of all of this is the ultimate Barclaysman. So the first group of the bracket, who are you going to vote for? 2 Guy or Tim Cahill?
2 Guy.
Next bracket, Jussi Jääskeläinen, Berbatov.
Jääskeläinen. Which I don't know why I said that because I put Berbatov at 4 and Jääskeläinen at 5.
You just shot yourself there. Jermaine Defoe, Morten Gamst Pedersen.
Pedersen.
Yakubu, Natty Taylor.
I'm still going Matty Taylor.
Okay.
Yeah. But you almost convinced me. But I'm going Matty Taylor.
Semi-finals, 2 Guy, Jussi Jääskeläinen.
Jääskeläinen.
Pedersen or Matty Taylor.
Pedersen.
Even though you put Matty Taylor in as 1.
I know, but you've taught me into it.
Okay, so then in the final...
You made a good point about Matty Taylor. Is it just one moment that's iconic rather than Pedersen?
So the final of the Barclaysman bracket, Jussi Jääskeläinen versus Morten Gamst Pedersen.
I'm going to go Pedersen.
Pedersen to win it.
But that is a good duo to get to the final.
Yeah.
That's a fair reflection.
But I think that was iconic. And I think when I listen back to this episode or people listen to the episode, I think this YouTube search history is going to be overloaded with just looking at the highlights. And I can go down the rabbit hole. I'm not sure about you, but just looking at highlights. And I think about the TV show, Premier League Years. I used to, like as a teenager, just watching every single Premier League season.
That was that was brilliant. Just ran, in an hour, just trying to condense everything that happened into a season. That's a great show. I don't know if it's still on, but if it's not, they're going to bring it back.
I think this weekend I'm going to try and find the Premier League Years and try and watch it. Unbelievable show. But before we finish, Jack, how confident are you feeling on the Guess Who challenge?
So I obviously put Michael Owen in, and I think he obviously got capped at Liverpool. At Newcastle, was it? Is that right? Did Newcastle? And then Madrid, maybe he got England caps through. And then, but I don't think at Man United he would have still been getting England caps. So I'm not confident.
Okay, so I'll give you clue 3. Clue 3. This player won the Football Writers Award, Player of the Year, in the 2010-2011 season, playing for West Ham.
I think that's Scott Parker. I'm going to put Scott Parker in, even though I'm still worried about this England cap thing. But go on.
Okay. Clue number 4. As manager, he managed his brother-in-law, Harry Arter, while at Fulham.
Oh, okay. I think he did. Parker was at Fulham, wasn't he? Yeah, I'll stick with him.
Okay, so clue 5. This ex-Charlton midfielder has won promotion to the Premier League with 3 separate teams as manager.
Well, I know he played at Charlton. That's where he started, didn't he? At Charlton. So I'll stick with him. I don't know about the promotion thing, but I know he played at Charlton, so I'm gonna stick with Charlton.
Can
I'm gonna
confirm
stick with Charlton.
Scott Parker is the man. That now puts you well in the lead on 19 points.
See, now I'm annoyed that I didn't put him off after the second clue.
Yeah, I was a little bit sneaky there. I'm not going to lie that I tried like keeping you on the Michael Owen bandwagon there.
Yeah, but also him getting England caps at 4 different teams is a little bit surprising, I guess.
Yeah, so Charlton, I think he got his first one. Then he was at Chelsea, Newcastle, Fulham.
Yeah, fair play.
And when I was looking through like his honours, he won quite a few awards. To be fair, and
Yeah.
I think he would come into my underrated 11.
Yeah, I mean, I knew he'd won like a Player of the Year award, didn't he? Like the writers won and stuff like that. So I knew he got. I think he had like a very high peak, didn't he? And then didn't really replicate that in the following seasons.
Yeah.
And we talked about people winning, staying at the right team, right? Should he, going to Chelsea, things like that? Where was the right place for him? Was it, was it there, or if he'd stayed in the team where he was having success, maybe he would have been more success.
Only 18 caps for England. Maybe he deserved a few more, maybe, but there was obviously iconic players in that position he was fighting for. So
Yeah, he had some tough competition there for sure.
Before we finish, just a little announcement. Myself and Jack will both be at the world's biggest soccer convention this week. Jack's going to be there. I'm going to be there. So if you see us, come say hello. It'd be great to meet anyone. And on that, enjoy your weekends.
1.